Hey guys, welcome back to another relationship story. In this video, my toxic sister poisoned me at my own wedding. Let's dive right into the video to find out what happened. And the first one starts like this. Have you ever been in a toxic relationship but never realized it until that one crucial moment where you get a nasty, life-changing shock and everything is suddenly so very clear and you start to wonder how you never managed to see the person for who they really are before now? Whether it's your boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, bestie, or the person next door, you need to keep an eye out for those toxic individuals who want nothing more than to screw you over to better their own lives. And by the way, Ripe Stars, my apologies if you can hear rain in the background, but there's currently some monsoon rain going on in Thailand, and it just does not stop. Anyway, for me it was my younger sister. It probably was not her fault that she grew up to be the person that she is. Our mom and dad always treated her like the golden child, always gave her what she wanted and always covered for her mistakes. I would get jealous of how much my sister got, but anytime my mom and dad saw this, they would tell me that being the older sibling, it's my responsibility to look out for my sister, to protect her and everything else. I used to be so naive to believe that BS, like there was this one time where my sister accidentally broke the neighbor's favorite garden gnome with a football. She says accidentally, but now I'm thinking that maybe she did it on purpose, but there's no way to prove it, it's just speculation. Anyway, when the neighbor came out to see what the noise was about and saw that the gnome was broken, he basically lost his head and started shouting at my sister. Seeing how upset my sister was getting, I stepped in and told my neighbor that it was just me. I took the full force of his fury. All my sister did was stand off to one side and all but laugh as he shouted at me. He then went and told my parents and they grounded me for the rest of the month. To this day, I wish I had let my sister take the punishment. She so deserved it. It was not until many years later that I decided enough was enough, right about the time I almost died. Despite having to live in the shadow of the golden child sister, I did pretty well for myself. I had a great job where I worked for myself and got to travel all over the world, expenses paid and everything. I got to spend weekends in Paris or week-long excursions to Venice and Kyoto. I was living the dream. This made my sister very jealous and she would always try to undermine my success by mouthing what I did. I felt hurt that my sister would not support me like how I was expected to support her, but I tried not to let it get to me too much. When I met my husband, it was probably the best day of my life. He was so kind and considerate. He liked to put on huge displays of affection in public, which would always embarrass me. He wore his heart on his sleeve and I loved how open he was. Naturally, my sister was jealous the second she saw him. She even went as far as to make up stories about him to try and get me to break up with him, no doubt so that she could have him for herself. She even once said that he had tried to hit on her and forced himself upon her. I knew she was lying, but I confronted him about this and he confirmed that she was making up stories. Despite it all, the lies and toxic behavior my sister displayed, it was not her actions that made me nearly break up with my boyfriend. One day my husband, who was just my boyfriend at the time, told me straight that he thought my sister was toxic. As soon as the words left his mouth, I exploded like a bomb at him, telling him that he cannot speak about my family like that and all sorts of stuff, you know, being super overprotective of my sister. Now that I look back on it, I think I might have overreacted to prevent myself from seeing the truth of the matter. She was and still is a very toxic person, but I didn't want to believe that at the time. Obviously, we didn't break up as we are married now and have kids of our own, and it is the marriage after all that is the central topic of this little story. So fast forward a couple of years and I'm engaged. I'm sat in my room with my bridesmaids about me, fussing over my makeup, gently swatting at my dress to make it billow out just right and all sorts of stuff. My sister is there too as one of the bridesmaids, being a spoiled little brat because she didn't get to be the maid of honor that went to my best friend. Her jealousy never once wavered in all the years either. All through the ceremony my sister has the sourest look on her face, which I don't really notice because, well, I'm getting married to the man of my dreams. The ceremony goes off without a hitch, everyone is in tears and it's so beautiful. Fast forward a little bit to the reception and we are all sat at our tables toasting. Suddenly I take a funny turn. It starts off with a cramp in my stomach and then my muscles go stiff. I feel like I wanna vomit out my dinner, but my throat seizes and nothing comes up. I double over the table, tears streaming down my face from the pain in my gut, the room spins like I'm in a tumble dryer and everything goes black. I wake up several hours later in the hospital. I am no longer in my wedding dress and I no longer feel beautiful. If anything, I feel the exact opposite, like I'm at death's door. The doctor came in to check on me, seeing that I was awake, and informed me that I was very much at death's door, but fortunately I got to the hospital in time and had my stomach pumped out and all sorts of stuff. It turns out that I'd been poisoned at my very own wedding. I couldn't believe it. It sounded so surreal, like I was a player in a soap opera or something. It must have been bad fish or undercooked chicken or something, but nope, the doctors confirmed that it was in fact poison I had ingested. The days go by and I'm lost. I don't know what to think. Who on earth would want to poison me on my wedding? I had not made any enemies, none that would want to go as far as to want to poison me at least. I desperately wanted to get to the bottom of this almost murder mystery. A few days go by and I'm finally strong enough to leave the hospital. Soon after that, I get a visit from the police who want to talk to me about this attempted murder. We talk about all the people at the reception and my relationship to them all, and any potential animosity. When it comes to my sister, I tell them that she was a little, massive understatement, jealous, but she was my sister and there was no way she would want to poison me. With my statement taken and I tell them that I'd like them to conduct a full investigation, they go off to do their thing. More days go by and I'm practically living in fear. I never want to leave the house just in case my would-be murderer tries it again. I go over all the names and faces of those at the party, trying to figure out who the culprit was. I'm gonna stir crazy over this. Eventually, the police come back to my door and inform me that they have strong evidence that it was my sister that tried to poison me. And honestly, I'm in deep denial at this point. My sister was jealous of me, sure, but she was the golden child. She got everything she ever wanted. Why would she try to poison me? I'm unable to face this information even as I'm sat in court, watching my sister face the prosecutor, feeling sorry for her, wishing she didn't have to go through with this charade. Then the evidence in the form of CCTV footage plays and I can clearly see my sister reach over and put something in my drink while I was distracted. My face drops. The mask slips away and I finally see my sister for the toxic monster she really was. My husband had been right and I felt so guilty for the things I had said to him when he tried to point this out to me. I cried so hard as they sentenced my sister and dragged her off to prison later on, not because I was gonna miss her, not because I felt like some great injustice had just been carried out. I cried because of how naive I had been, how blinded I had become because of my mom and dad. All those years finally made sense and I could see my sister for the toxic bitch she really was. I never spoke to her again after that. I don't even acknowledge the fact that I have a sister at all. And yeah, ripe stars, that sister was certainly probably the worst sibling I've ever heard of. These golden child siblings are honestly the worst. Either way, if you enjoy these relationship stories, then please don't forget to like the video and maybe even subscribe to the channel if you haven't already to not miss any of my daily uploads. The next one is titled I'm 15 weeks pregnant with our Polly family's second baby, and here I am thinking of running away from the family that we have created. Also, just a little warning in advance, slight trigger warning for this story in regards to abortion, pro-forced birth comments, abusive relationships and emotional abuse. So in short, this is a quite serious story, but also pretty interesting. Anyway, so I'm married for 9 years, me and my husband have been doing the polyamory thing for 4 years now. This started when my husband confessed to having feelings for one of our mutual friends. He really sold me on the idea of a poly triad and we started living together. My family disapproved and stopped visiting us. That hurt, but things were okay. I did struggle with some jealousy issues. Although I told my husband that I was open to dating someone new and bringing the new person into our fold, in reality I was not ready at all. The guys I liked quickly distanced themselves romantically as soon as they heard that I was a married female in a non-monogamous relationship. It was hard. As for the guys who were okay with my situation and pursued me, I was not attracted to them. Things changed in 2017 when my husband's girlfriend became pregnant with my husband's first child. I love the kid, I really do. She calls me mama and loves me a lot. Right around the same time though, my company promoted me. I went from working 4 hours a day to essentially living 4 months out of my state. I immersed myself in my work and in 2019 my husband talked about having one of our own to complete the family. Now fast forward to June 2020, I find out I'm pregnant and we are having a boy. We had a big gender reveal and everything. The kiddo knows that she's getting a baby brother. I'm currently 15 weeks along, and 2 nights ago my company offered me a permanent position in the new city. Because of the pandemic they had to lay off many people, and they now need more people in leadership roles. From a career standpoint, it would be foolish of me if I let this opportunity go, but if I do that, it would break my family apart. Right now my husband and his girlfriend are working on the baby room, and I'm here sitting conflicted. I'm really tempted to take up the job offer and run away from the life that we've created. I'm also secretly contemplating an abortion. My friend thinks that I should take up the offer. He thinks I'm unhappy with my life and that a change would do me good. I would be working with him if I take up the offer. I have friends in that city, so I know that I wouldn't be alone. I'm really stressed out thinking about it. What do I do? And yeah, Ripe Stars, if you would be in this situation, what would you recommend OP to do? I'm very curious about what you have to say about this. Either way, someone in the comments said, this whole situation stems from the fact that you became poly under duress by nature of your cheating husband. You don't become poly because you have someone else lined up already. All these people telling you to just work it out fail to see that you were coerced into this situation. I'm baffled why you let it go on so long, especially since you did not have a kid together, but I suppose it's your visceral desire for stability. I would get an abortion and go create a life you know, actually enjoy instead of this day-to-day colorless life of acceptance you have tolerated for way too long. Then OP answered, this was blunt and maybe the honest response that I needed. My husband and his girlfriend swear that they didn't start a romantic relationship until I was fully in the loop of things. But to be really honest, I don't know, maybe they did start out by cheating. However, that ship has sailed and I accepted the situation, so looking back on that won't help my situation. But I do feel that I need a fresh start now, away from the mundane life that I have. 15 weeks pregnant, I'm getting an abortion next week and moving on from my poly family. Another update, I made a post a few days ago about being conflicted with a new job offer and an existing pregnancy. Just thought I would share it here first. So last night I accepted the job offer and I'm getting an abortion next week. My friend is helping me every step of the way. I'll be filing for divorce in a week or two. I've had great years with my poly family and my husband, and now it's time for me to make the jump and dive into the unknown. Thanks to all the people who sent me supportive PMs and helped me make my decision, and yes, I did talk to a therapist via Zoom. That session helped me clear my head in a way that I hadn't felt before. And no, I have not talked to my husband. I'll talk to him after I actually get the abortion procedure done. I'm really focused at this moment and don't want conflicting opinions to derail my journey. So I'll talk to him after it's all done. Thank you. Then OP also said, I'm not poly. My husband became poly a couple of years into our marriage when he fell in love with a mutual friend, and I went along with it because I wanted to please my husband and I was afraid of our marriage breaking up. He was and is my only partner and I was terrified to losing him. Clearly that was a mistake and it built a lot of resentment inside me over the years which I couldn't understand or justify to myself. I finally aborted my 15-week pregnancy and I'm ending my polyamorous marriage. Another update to the story, I moved out this Wednesday. If you check my post history you would know what I'm talking about, so just an update. I told my husband about the abortion this week on Wednesday. I'd never seen him so broken and it broke my heart to see him cry, but I had to do it. His girlfriend hugged me, the little kiddo hugged me and bid me goodbye. My husband refused to talk to me, I'm waiting for him to reach out. I'm giving him space right now, I'm at peace and I don't regret my decision. With this, I'm bidding my poly lifestyle a final goodbye. Thanks to all the people here who supported me. And now let's move on to the next story. It starts like this. Before I get into what happened, I feel like I need to address the whole debate with landlords going on at the moment. I know many people see landlords as a job that shouldn't exist because they are making money off of people needing a place to live. I'm aware that the profession of a landlord is a little bit controversial and I would love to hear your opinions about them. Anyway, for this story though, I want to focus more on my landlord as a person than anything else, but I do agree that if I was allowed to rent my property through a different kind of system, this entire thing would not have happened. So I am renting an apartment and found that the landlord and me don't get along at all. It really shouldn't matter, but for some reason he wants to make it a personal thing. A few months after moving in, I noticed some problems that, according to my lease, was his responsibility to get fixed. I was not trying to be a problem, but when the stove stops working and the water coming out of the shower turns brown, that is not a small thing I can handle on my own. I was not doing anything crazy like calling him to change the light bulbs or unclog my toilet. These were really serious problems and yet he was mad about it. He didn't want me as a tenant anymore and thought he could be nasty enough to make me want to leave. One thing he did was show up without any kind of announcement constantly to tell me that he had to do various things that were all lies. For example, taking measurements or having to do some kind of inspection. I would find him just looking around at my things before anybody comments though. Yes, I know the landlord has rights to do things like this, but in the lease he is meant to give me notice unless it is an emergency. One day though, he went too far. I went out with my friends and they picked me up, meaning my car was left in its spot. My car keys were also left in my apartment. I came home to the car missing and was horrified that it had been stolen. I quickly ran upstairs and found that the keys to them were missing and certain things were not in their proper place. Before I called the police, I get a call from them claiming that my car was in a wreck and the driver fled. I tell them that nobody was meant to be driving my car and was told I had to come down to the scene to clear things up. I got an Uber and went where they told me to find that my car had been basically wrapped around a tree. I filed a report that the car had been stolen and they were going to look into things. Back at home that night, I hear my landlord on the other side of my door. Landlord, OP, let me in. Something happened when I borrowed your car. He was absolutely drunk. Me, leave right now before I call the cops. You stole my keys and crashed my car. Get out of here. He ended up using his foot and kicking in my door, letting himself in. He was waving my car keys in front of his face like he was trying to give them back to me. I could not believe what he had done and also could not follow his drunk story. He apparently borrowed the car to get groceries, and since he owned the apartment, he had the right to borrow things from me. At least that's what he thought. I yelled at him once again to leave, and that is when he starts to get violent. He takes a few swings at me before I push him down in self-defense. I managed to get him out and the door was luckily able to be closed and locked. He did not break any of the hinges and it was only the door lock he broke, not the top lock. I heard him on the other side of the door calling the police and telling them that he was a landlord and one of his tenants was being violent and he wanted them removed. The guy seriously attacks me, steals my car and then has the balls to call the police because I kicked him out of my home. I don't open the door again until the police are knocking and telling me that I need to let them in. They talk to us both and then tell me what the situation is on their end. Officer, okay, so while you are a renter, he owns the property. Physically assaulting your landlord randomly can result in eviction. So you need to leave with us now and then you can come back tomorrow with a police escort in order to get your things. Me, wait, what are you talking about? He is the one that attacked me. He broke down my door and even stole and crashed my car. Officer, do you have any proof of your story over his? Without that, we need to side with the legal property owner. Me, I got a camera set up in this room. It should have caught everything from today. Landlord, I never said you could install a camera in here. I want you out. Officer, quiet down. We will see the video and go from there. Can you take him outside for a few minutes? I don't need another fight breaking out. The landlord is led outside while the officers look at the video. It's actually my first time watching it as well, and you can see me clearly leaving the apartment. Then 10 minutes later, the landlord lets himself in, looks through my stuff and takes my car keys and then leaves. Then it shows the tonight of him kicking in my door and taking swings at me. It's clear that he is the problem, and now with proof the officers are able to help me. He is arrested for the car theft and I am told to come down to the station in the morning and fill out paperwork. To wrap things up, he was arrested and forced to give me the money the car was valued at so I could put it towards a new one. He was charged with grand theft auto, drunk and disorderly conduct, and finally drunk driving. His plea for me to be evicted was denied and instead he was gonna have to pay for a new door since now mine was not up to code. Him going to jail though meant that he couldn't be the landlord anymore and was gonna have to sell the building to someone else. That landlord was not nearly as bad and I never had an issue with the new one for the entire time that I lived there. Final note is, I know some people might be mad at the police for taking his side and trying to kick me out, but I understand. I got police in the family and when they are out on a call like that, they are forced to do everything by the book. When they found out I was innocent, they were happy to arrest him instead and leave me alone. I don't know enough to say if having a landlord is beneficial in society or if they are just a problem that we need to find a solution for. Either way, I hope that guy is never in charge of people again. He was sent to jail for a year and I can only hope he did not try to take things that didn't belong to him there, because we all know how that would end. And yeah, once again, Ripe Stars, I would be really curious how a Karen or a Kevin, let's just say that's how they are called, would fare in prison. I don't think that this entitled attitude would fly over there, but who knows? I don't think any of my viewers have prison or jail experience, so I don't think any of you have any stories, but in case you do, let us know in the comments. I would be really interested in hearing how an entitled person fares in prison. And yeah guys, with this we have reached the end of the video. However, if you cannot get enough of my content, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel to not miss any of my daily uploads. And also check out my podcast by searching for Ripe Stories on Spotify, Amazon, Audible and other podcast platforms. You will often find exclusive episodes and early access to new content. Furthermore, please check out my Patreon by going to patreon.com/ripeyoutube or my YouTube membership program for even more exclusive stories. Thank you so much and I will see you again tomorrow.